The whole world is changing right under our feet. Listen, if you're watching and you're paying attention and you're discerning what's going on, there's a lot taking place even today. You know, just yesterday, they announced that the BRICS nations were coming together to begin to discuss how they were going to take strides towards the future. I'm going to show you a clip of that in a moment about the information behind it that we're walking into today in real time. The World Economic Forum has announced consumer tracking. We're going to get into some of that. And what does Africa have to say about all the way we're taking care of social issues? You know, there's so much we want to get into. I have a very interesting point of view, not only on the weather, but also on what China is doing. And as we're watching their economy begin to cascade downward, where is that leading? What is this about? Where's that going to head? And we've got to talk about it because they have something up their sleeve, and I want to mention that to you as well. Now, if you would, please share this right now. Repost it immediately. It's going to help somebody. I also want to thank the partners and friends of this ministry. Thank you so much for standing with us. If you want to be a greater part of what we're doing and you want to join the partner family, please go to josephz.com. Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of 2020, just like we're doing right now, I had a sense, and the Lord had us reel in our travel schedule. We pulled back on our travel in 2020, and when that took place, we stopped, we focused on the studio, and we got ready for a wild season that was going on. And I'll tell you what, just like so many of you who lived through it, we went through it, and as we did so, we were prepared for what came. I believe the Lord is preparing us right now. That is why we got a building. We have a building. It took everything we had to do it, and I'm believing God that we're going to get it paid off. And here's what I mean by this. If you have any unction or desire to stand with us over the building, you can do so by going to josephz.com, and you can give any amount towards it. Any amount will help. As a matter of fact, if there were partners and any partner decided we're going to, if any partners decided they wanted to give towards this, you could, if all of our partners give $25 a week towards the building, we could have it paid off by the end of the year, by the way we've done it. And the moment we bought this building or put all of our resources in, when it's paid off, we will have tripled our money because of the value. We got it for 1/3 of its value. It's amazing. So thank you for your help. Thank you for your consideration. If you want to help us do this, I believe we are being preemptive with a studio and a broadcast system that we'll be able to be available no matter what comes into 24. So please help us do this. I feel an urgency in my spirit to get it done, to pay it off, to be done with it and go after it. So whatever you can do would be wonderful. And by whatever, I mean, if you can only do a few dollars, if you can do, a magnificent amount, whatever the Lord would put on your heart or whatever you're available to do, please do so. josephz.com. Let's pay this building off so we can really keep our voice free and keep going out and reaching many, many people. Thank you for being here today. Please repost this. I'm going to get into so much right now. You don't want to miss this. And of course, if you want to give, you do all this stuff at josephz.com. Now let's go into this today. A lot of news today, a lot to get into, and it is a strong time that we're talking about. I want to just begin to mention this. First and foremost, we got all this stuff going on. You got Maui on fire. You got all these issues happening. And suddenly, as the world is on fire over there, then the Manchurian candidate shows up and he begins to give some comments. This leader is so out of touch, but it doesn't matter to the elites pulling the strings. They just want him to show up and do what he's going to do. And let me say this to you very clearly. He shows up and he begins to say something highly insulting. I figured I'd show it to you, and that's the way it ought to be. So let's take a look at this. We got our nation's leader on the ground, boots on the ground, so to speak, and he has this to say, and it was very controversial, and he makes a comment about the ground being hot, man. Let's check this out.
President Biden is back on vacation in Lake Tahoe after...
At least he's back on vacation, getting all that rest he needs so he can really continue giving away everything to the Red Dragon and, of course, the dancing pervert over there and all the things that are happening. Thank you, Manchurian, for selling us down the river. But let's look at it. He's back on vacation, though, getting his rest. Let's see.
Okay. Following the deadly wildfires, some angry residents protesting his visit over accusations the White House isn't doing enough to help. And comments like this from the president being viewed by some as inappropriate.
You guys catch the boots out here? That's a hot ground, man.
That's a hot ground, man.
Nick and Amanda Cassidy both lost homes in the fires, and they both join me now.
We can stop here, but it's terrible. It's hot ground, man. You know, he's saying things that are so inappropriate to what's happened with the tragedy. And next point, I want to show you this. But a lot of people are asking the question, was this natural? Was it a real fire hurricane, as they're calling it? Well, I do have to tell you, I believe there was something more nefarious behind this. We've been discussing that, looking at it. Let me show you a very interesting clip from the news, or actually the weather. A man is reporting on the weather, and suddenly he makes a comment about the weather swells you see on the infrared radar. As he's showing the radar, he makes a comment about, oh, this isn't weather, this is military action. It looks like rain, but it's not. And he moves on. It's a very short clip. I want you to see this because the comment he makes is intriguing, and it's what he basically says out loud, what many people are thinking, and yet he does it on a live weather broadcast. Check this out.
This is not rain, as we've been telling you for the past 2 weeks now. They're doing military exercises out there, and although it looks like rain, it's not. Showers here.
Although it looks like rain, it's not. You see this here, and he says, although it looks like rain, it's not. How big do swells have to be off the coastline to look that extreme to say it looks like rain, but it's not? That there is massive. We're talking hundreds of miles of territory or airspace. And he's saying, although it looks like rain, it's not. These are military exercises. What kind of military exercises? Well, when you look at what people are considering, it is most likely the machines they're using to project clouds and things in the air, not to mention the high energy weapons they use to fry things on the ground when they don't want it there anymore. And that's stuff you could consider. Now, there's a lot of things transpiring. We've got to consider what's going on around the world because there's serious events transpiring right in front of our faces. Let me show you another couple of clips, and I think this is really important when we're considering what is happening around the world. And if you would, please repost this right now. The next part I'm about to show you is really, really serious. And I want you to look at this because I'm going to show you first and foremost the game plan they have. Let me show you this article real quick about China and the fact that they have trillions, okay? There's an article I looked up and I saw this. China, 3 trillion in shadow reserves. Now, the reason I want to bring this out to you very quickly is because we're watching their economy dissolve. It is collapsing. Now, there's this article that caught my attention. Remember, I always talk about on this broadcast, if you see big news, watch the small news. Why are we watching the small news? Well, because there's so much that we've got to glean from it, and they sometimes leak what's actually happening. So as we're watching their infrastructure and their economics disappear, and just in recent months, they've lost over, I think it's $2 trillion. $2 trillion, as they have said, has evaporated from their economic standing. But here we see, and this is the interesting point, this rolls into my next clip. Please listen to me. China has 3 trillion, get this, in shadow reserves. Shadow reserves, in other words, they have hidden resources, and it threatens the global economy. So they have 3 trillion tucked away for that rainy day or a shaking day. 3 trillion tucked away in shadow reserves, and it threatens the global economy, former U.S. Treasury official says. Now, when we're looking at this, you realize they're just showing you all this, but look, the Chinese regime is hiding trillions of dollars in shadow reserves, according to an economist and former Obama-era Treasury Department official, Brad Sester, who served on President Biden's 2020 Transition Agency review team, recently warned that China possessed far more foreign exchange reserves than the regime is reporting. He estimated in the China project that Beijing likely has roughly 3 trillion hidden, something that could threaten the global economy's future. The global economy's future. They're saving it up for a rainy day. Now, there's so much we could get into with this, and that means they've got it hidden. So here's what they're doing. They're playing the victim. They're playing on the ropes and saying, oh no, we're losing. And they're preparing to lunge out. Now, here's one of the steps not only they are doing, but several other nations called BRICS, as you know, are coming together. Let's look at this. Now, there's a wonderful broadcaster that gave information on this. So I'm going to show you his clip on what's going on today. This came out yesterday. He's declaring what's happening, and it's happening today. Now, you need to pay attention to this. And again, when I show you these things, this is not for fear. It's not meant to scare you. It's meant to prepare you, and you can really be in a great wave of Holy Spirit breakthrough even in the middle of all this. But I want to show you this, and then I got some things I want to share with you that'll really encourage you. So let's hang in here. Let's look at this clip about what's actually happening with the BRICS nations, and it's taking place right now during this broadcast. It's happening today.
In 24 hours, will change everything. Yes, tomorrow a BRICS lightning bolt will shock the Western hegemony that's been ruling the world for decades. The Western media is totally ignoring the story, by the way, because they don't want to admit what's about to happen. Goldman Sachs, though, understands it, and they believe that by the year 2050, the BRICS nations will dominate the global economy.
2050,
So
they're gonna have the world completely taken over by 2050. Now that sounds like it's a long ways away, but to get there, it's gonna take a lot of steps, some very aggressive steps. That means they're gonna start changing the terrain right in front of us. And just so you know, unless the people rise up, this is just in motion. They'll say, protest, cry out, do whatever you want. We're doing it anyway. Let's continue.
Tomorrow, the BRICS summit officially
Today.
kicks off in South Africa. This is the first face-to-face BRICS summit since the start of, and we are about to witness a rebalancing of the world order. The agenda items at this summit are massive. The currency, yes, a new currency, trade, military cooperation, AI, microchips, oil, all of it, infrastructure, rail lines, shipping. This is a big, big deal. And the United States, I guess, didn't get an invitation. The British didn't get an invitation.
I'll talk to you in a moment. We didn't get an invitation. The British didn't get an invitation, and neither did Germany. And you're realizing, my goodness, they're pushing out all these nations because they have an agenda. But here's the real kicker with it. There is a reason for this, and one of the reasons is the stances the U.S. is taking on this liberal agenda to be perverted. Perversion is one of the main reasons they say you're not welcome to the party, and I'll show you that in a moment, but let's continue.
Didn't welcome. Is the game over for the Western hegemony? Well, the writing is on the wall. Now, for those of you that don't know, BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And it started out small over a decade ago, and now it's become the greatest threat to Western power that we've ever seen. And I'm not talking about military power here, which we'll get to in a second. I'm actually talking about economic power, oil power, computer power, trade power, the greatest weapons of all, not those bombs.
Boom, 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 boom. Check this out.
Now, the top of the agenda is the United States dollar, squarely in the crosshairs.
So what they want to do is they want to devalue that and shut it down and put it to the wayside and turn us into Greece, okay? That's where they want this to go. That's the ultimate end. Now, why are we not invited to the table? Well, there's a number of reasons. It's a shift of power. They want to hold the reins. They don't want us running anything anymore. And we have, I think we're months away from watching this thing really cascade downwards in America, but yet I have such a sense of hope. How do I say this any better? There's difficulty coming. It's going to be dark in Egypt, but it will be light in Goshen. There is a sense of hope, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. And if you can hang with me, I'm going to turn this narrative for what I sense supernaturally for you in the middle of this downturn and storm. And this is going to be really important. Now, I'm going to show you a clip from an African nation where they're talking about how all these American treaties came in, American people came in, and they said, here's what we're going to do. We need to bring in money. We're going to give you money, but you've got to basically take good care of the yoo-hoo flu. We want you to handle the yoo-hoo scenario and really put it in order, and you need to really begin to put that in a priority in your communities and your nation. And they basically mock that. They can't stand it. They can't stand it. Now, here's what I want to say to you. Then the other nations are coming and saying, we're going to militarize you, we're going to help you. Now, listen to the way that they say this. This is the zeitgeist. This is the mood of the nations that are part of everything from BRICS to other things, how they view the U.S. from outside this. So this agenda that everybody thinks is so wonderful is costing this nation everything. But let's take a look. You'll get the idea here.
Arrogance of the Americans, the bulliness of the Americans. Let me even throw it on the west side. America right now comes to Tanzania, comes to Ghana, comes to Zambia with 16 million. And guess what? 16 million only for Zambia. 16 million, ask me what is it for? What is it for? For human rights. Across the river and coming to South Africa. Asking me for what? For what? For a military training.
Military.
And skills sharing.
That's what the other ones, that's what the other nations bring. Military training, skills training. Basically, side with us and we will empower you, okay? Let's keep going.
So the Americans are more interested in it.
Yeah, Americans, they want to do, it said the you, they want to bring you in here and they want you to really just figure out, who you is and where you at and, all this stuff like what kind of individual are you and what do you, how do you want to be related to and all this, yoo-hoo, they want to bring in the yoo-hoo flu. And over here, they're saying, no, thank you. We don't want that. We like our sons and daughters. And that's what they're saying. So it's interesting to see the real nations standing up that say we don't like this type of behavior, and yet we got the leaders in our country, which I believe is going to change. Okay, I got good hope to give you. I believe is going to change, but they're saying you need to go ahead and bring in the yoo-hoo agenda, and they're saying no, thank you. Let's finish this.
Agenda around the world. They will invest their money and give you money to protect human rights. And China with weapons and militarization strategies so that we can protect ourselves. So I want to say this very loud and clear to the Americans. Continue on your agenda. Stay there. Leave us to do politics on the other side.
He's saying, you go ahead, America. Continue on the yoo-hoo train. We're going to go ahead and take over geopolitics. You go ahead and burn your nation to the ground with all the perversion and filth that we can't stomach over here. And that's what they're saying. And they want to say that they're going to continue doing what they're going to do in a line against what we're standing with over here. Now, that's, of course, not the people. All the people in different nations, you get a lot of believers and good people in nations. But it's a serious thing no matter how you look at it. And this is a really strong understanding. Now, one final thing I want to give you very quickly, because then I'm going to get into a prophetic flow here about hope. And what I sense with this is that our wonderful goblin lizard overlords at the World Economic Forum, those sickos over there, one of them came out just recently. It's a recent clip where they're saying that we need to begin to recognize or normalize the idea that each consumer needs to start having their own carbon footprint tracker. And they don't fully have it realized yet, but they're working on it. Have no fear. They want to make sure that your digital prison is here and you're recognizing how they're bringing that up. Let me show you one of the sleaze bags from over there in the World Economic Forum as they talk about tracking. Now remember, the World Economic Forum is led by Klaus, the Bond villain. He's just like, you know nothing and you will love it. And then you got Noah Harari, the man that's over there also, and he's the one saying, we put it under the skin, me and my boyfriend, we just love this kind of thing. We stand around and we do this, and I need to eat a sandwich. But when you look at this, let's just take a look at what this gentleman or individual from the World Economic Forum talks about regarding human tracking through a carbon footprint tracker. Look at this.
We're developing through technology an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Where are they traveling?